Hey guys, welcome to the answers to homework number 3. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll through all the answers for you. You can check your papers, you can pause it as you need. And after I go through all the answers real quick, then I will explain every problem. And what you should do is you should just go to the ones you missed and hopefully listen to my explanation and see if you can figure out how to do it, okay? So first, let's go through all the answers. Here is problems 1 through 3. Here are 4 through 6. Pause it as you need. Here is problems 7, 8, and 9. Here are problems 10 and 11. Problem 12, you should have that table and that graph and the slope and the y-intercept. And problem number 13, again, you should have the table, the graph, the slope, and the y-intercept. All right, let me go through and explain each of these. So I will just do the homework for you. Problem number 1, I'm solving for y. So the first thing I should do is I should get rid of the x term. Oops, I even do that when I'm not in class. I should get rid of the x term by subtracting 5x from both sides. Now the y term is by itself. And then I would want to divide everything by -2. And that will get the y by itself. 8 divided by -2 is -4. -5 divided by -2 is a decimal. We are preferring right now to leave that as a fraction. It would be positive because it's a negative divided by a negative. And it would be 5/2 x. Number 2. Again, the first thing I want to do is get rid of the other term that doesn't have a y. So I'm going to subtract x from both sides. That gives me 4y, and it gives me 20 minus x. One thing you might want to remember is that there is a coefficient of 1 in front of that x. That might make your dividing easier. The next thing I would want to do is divide by the 4 to cancel out the 4. And that gives me y equals 20 divided by 4 is 5. And -1 divided by 4, again, that would be a decimal, so I'm just going to leave it as a whole number, or as a fraction. And it would be -1/4 x. Problem 3. I need to get rid of the 2x, so I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. That leaves me with -y. A lot of people often forget the negative sign. Equals 11 minus 2x. And again, what you might want to remember is that negative sign is like having a -1 there. So you're going to want to divide everything by -1 to get rid of it. And that leaves me with 11 divided by -1 is -11. -2 divided by -1 is +2x. That brings me to number 4, probably the easiest one. You just need to get rid of the x, so you're going to subtract x from both sides. And you're left with y equals 12 minus x. And you're done. Problem 5. The first thing you need to do in problem 5 is simplify the problem by distributing the 3. That would give you 3x plus 6y equals 12. And now you can start getting the y by itself. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is get rid of the other term that doesn't have a y. I get rid of the 3x by subtracting 3x. That gives me 6y equals 12 minus 3x. Then, of course, I'm going to want to get rid of the 6 so that the y can be by itself. I will divide everything by 6. And that gives me the y by itself. 12 divided by 6 would be 2. Negative 3 divided by 6. Well, that turns out to be a decimal, so I'm going to leave it as a fraction. Negative 3/6 reduces to negative 1/2. And there's your x. All right, last up, the hardest one. The first thing I want to do is simplify this, so I'm going to distribute the 2 to start and get 4x plus 2y equals 5 plus 7x minus 5y. All right, now, we didn't go over like one like this in the notes, but here's the thing. There is a y term on both sides of the problem. And if I am solving for y, I need those terms to be on the same side. I need to gather all the y's on one side. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to eliminate the y term on the right. I'm going to add 5y to both sides so that there will only be y terms on the left. This gives me 4x plus 7y equals 5 plus 7x. Now I can go ahead and get the y by itself, right? So now I would subtract the 4x to get it over to the other side. And, oops, that gives me 7y equals 5 plus 3x. And finally, I would divide everything by 7. And that's going to give me my final result. I guess I'm as far down as I can get. Y equals 5/7 plus 3/7 x. That was a hard one. Okay, number 7, 8, and 9, you had to find the unit rate. Remember, you find the unit rate by doing the change in y over the change in x. So in this case, the change in y is 7, the change in x is 2. So this would be 7 divided by 2, or 3.5, and it's ounces per hour. Remember, the top is always the y units and the bottom is always the x units. All right, so ounces per hour, 3.5. Number 8, so it looks like 0, 0, and right here, that would be an 18. So it looks like the y has gone up 18. The change in y is 18, and the change in x is 10. So when I go from this point to this point, it looks like I have 18 divided by 10. And 18 divided by 10 is 1.8. And I need to put my units on there. My units would be hours per gallons. 1.8 hours per gallon. And finally over here, again, I have 0, 0, and I have a nice point here, 4, 6. So it looks like y goes up 6 when x goes up 4. Or a better way to look at that, actually, is a slope triangle. Let's make a slope triangle. And it looks like the y value is going from, the rise is going up 6, while the x value is going across from 8 to 12. That would be 4. All right, I know it's only 2 boxes, but if you look at the scale down here, it goes from 8 to 12. That's 4. So the change in y over the change in x would be 6 over 4, or 1.5. And since this is dollars, I'm going to put a 0 on there, so it's $1.50 per hour. I don't know who's charging $1.50 per hour, but that's not very much. All right, this brings me to 11, 10, and 11, where I had to find the slope of the line. I find the slope of the line by doing y minus y over x minus x. So in this case, that might be -7 minus 7. Those are my y values. And my x values are 12 minus 18. And that gives me -14 on top. 12 minus 18 is -6. And if you put that fraction into your calculator to reduce it, you would find out that it is positive 7/3, because a negative over a negative is actually positive. In number 11, again, I'm going to do y minus y over x minus x. So in this case, that would be -3 minus -3. That'd be the y values, right? And the x values would be 9 minus 12. And let's see, -3 minus -3 is 0. 9 minus 12 is -3. And when you simplify that, you get 0. So that one has a slope of 0. That's a horizontal line. All right, that brings us to the 2 graphs, right? Number 12. Well, I'm going to put, so what I need to do here is, I need to make a table of ordered pairs that are solutions to that equation. So I pick my 3 values for x, and I start by putting 1 in for x, and I solve that for y. 6 times 1 is 6. I want to solve that for y, so I would subtract 6 from both sides, giving me 3y equals 9. And then I would divide both sides by 3, and I would get y equals 3. When x equals 1, y equals 3. And then I would put the next number in. I put 2 in. 6 times 2 plus 3y equals 15. That'd be 12 plus 3y equals 15. And now I want to solve for y, so I would subtract 12 from both sides. Gives me 3y equals 3. I would divide both sides by 3 and get y equals 1. When x is equal to 2, y is equal to 1. And finally, I would need to put 3 in for x. So let's erase that. And go green on this one. So I need to put 3 in for x and see what y equals when x equals 3. 6 times 3 plus 3y equals 15. That'd be 18 plus 3y equals 15. Now I need to solve this thing for y. So I would subtract 18 from both sides and get 3y equals -3. Then I'm going to divide by 3 and get y equals -1. And now that I have my 3 ordered pairs, I need to take the ordered pairs and put them on the graph. So the first ordered pair would be 1 to the right and up 3. The second ordered pair would be 2 to the right and up 1. And the third one would be 3 to the right and down 1. And you should connect those with a nice straight line, put arrows, and you have graphed the equation. Number 13, the last problem, I think. Oops, I forgot something in number 12, didn't I? Sorry, the slope and the y-intercept. So I might calculate the slope by making a slope triangle. My slope triangle has a rise of 2 and a run of 1. But the rise is not really 2, it's actually negative 2 because it's going down. So my slope is negative 2 over 1, or just better written, that would be negative 2. And of course, the y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. It crosses the y-axis at 5, so the y-intercept is 5. Now we can go to number 13. All right, so in number 13, I need to make a table of ordered pairs that are solutions to the equation. So I would start by picking my 3 values for x. I'm going to pick 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to substitute those numbers in for x. So I'd start with 1. And what I'm trying to figure out is, what is the y value when x is 1? Well, I can solve for it. This would be 4 times 1 is 4. I would subtract 4 from both sides and get negative 2y equals 2. And I would divide by negative 2 and get y equals negative 1. So when x is 1, y is negative 1. Let's move on and do 2. 4 times 2 minus 2y equals 6. So what does y equal when I put 2 in for x? Let's find out. 4 times 2 would be 8, minus 2y is 6. I would want to subtract 8 from both sides and get negative 2y is negative 2. And then I would want to divide both sides by negative 2 and get y equals positive 1. And finally, this leaves me with the 3. I might need to substitute 3 in for x. And so that might look like this. 4 times 3 minus 2y equals 6. And now I want to solve for y to see what the y value is when the x value is 3. I would get 12 minus 2y equals 6, right? Because 4 times 3 is 12. Then I would subtract 12 from both sides and get negative 2y is negative 6. And finally, I would divide by negative 2 and get y equals 3. And I now have my 3 ordered pairs that are all solutions to this equation, right? Because that's all a graph is. A graph is a picture of the solutions. So I'm going to go ahead and put the solutions on my graph. 1, negative 1 would be 1 to the right, down 1. 2, 1 would be 2 to the right and up 1. And 3, 3 would be 3 to the right and up 3. Connect those points with a nice smooth line. And you are done graphing. So to get the slope of that line, since I was asked for the slope down here, I might make a slope triangle. This time, my slope triangle has a rise of 2 and a run of 1. So the slope would be 2 over 1, or better written, that would just be 2. And the y-intercept for this line is the point where it crosses the y-axis. That would be negative 3. And we're done with that one. Hope that helps. Good luck with the notes.